Okay, rapid review, Free Guy. So, score up front, analysis later. What did I think of Free Guy? Spoiler-free part, the pros. I thought Ryan Reynolds was great, and Taika Waititi kind of stole the show. This movie was really fun. It was funny, it was charming, it was everything I expected it to be. It's basically what you expect from the pitches, though it has one really nice component that they did a nice outside the video game storyline that adds a little more heart to the story so it wasn't just a joke. What are the cons? Well, despite being an original property that's doing something pretty daring, I guess I'll add that bing over to the pros. Some of the plot structures were really standard. It felt like it was going through the motions a little bit here and there. There was nothing really revolutionary about this story, despite the premise, like I said, being really interesting. Some of the plot cycles, therefore, fell a little flat for me, and I really could have used a stronger character arc. Overall, though, I like this film. I'm going to give it a score of 7 out of 10. Now, stick around for the analysis. This will include spoilers. This is what I thought more in depth. So, I am shocked this movie hasn't been made before. What do I mean by that? Well, once The Truman Show came out, you started to see in fiction a lot of stories basically doing this premise. What if you discovered you were in a video game? There's a webcomic called Goblins that's all about this. I've read numerous stories and novels all based around this main premise, but we never got a movie. I'm not sure why. It's strange that it's taken 25 years from this idea circulating to finally get a film about it. One thing that I think is really great about this is they wisely chose to do a Grand Theft Auto style video game instead of what I've normally seen, which is a fantasy sort of video game. This actually makes a lot of sense. It's way more accessible. It kind of is part of pop media in an interesting way. For people who don't play video games, this is what they imagine that a lot of video games are. All of the stories like this I've read were written by fantasy nerds who all play Final Fantasy and basically games like that. It's like, what if you found out you were an NPC in Skyrim or Final Fantasy or take your pick? And them doing it as a Grand Theft Auto clone is actually a really smart idea. One of the problems, though, watching this, I've read some criticisms of the film that say it was written by people who don't know video games. And I don't think that's the case. I think this was written by people who know video games. But I think it was written by people who know video games, but also think that their audience doesn't. Because of this whole idea that in the Free Guys world, in Free City or whatever it is, all the players are trolls, right? Everybody is a griefer. That is all that exists. And rightly so, a lot of people are pointing out, that's just not how it goes. Usually it's a few griefers ruining things for everyone else, and most people are trying to play the game it was intended. And if there's a hero option in a game, a vast majority of the people playing, I think, are going to choose that one. At least an even number to the griefers. This whole idea that it's like revolutionary that someone's treating the NPCs well, I think that's the writers basically not giving enough credit to the audience. It does make a better narrative, though, so I can't say that I would have changed it 100%. The narrative is kind of strong with this idea of the NPC standing up for NPC rights. And you could make the argument that the game designers can really incentivize a certain gameplay style. I was able to suspend my disbelief on this. I think my friends who know video games better and know programming are just going to have a massive headache watching this film. I mean, I know very little, and even I know they are taking huge liberties in the way that games work and programming works, right? Like this is the you know that scene in movies where they have like the hacker hacking and it has this like wonderful user interface. You're like, who programmed a wonderful user interface for hacking? That is this movie to the nth degree. I was fine with it. It's a fantasy property. You can just kind of throw all that out the window. I could, at least. So, main piece of analysis is this. Guy doesn't have an internal character arc. This really bothered me. It's what keeps the movie from being truly great. It keeps it kind of stuck in this realm of the 6 to 7 out of 10 instead of the 8 to 9 out of 10 that I think this premise really could have done, particularly with this acting team. It is just a delightful film. But what does Guy learn or do? Here's our ending, right? Guy is walking across like a road, a platform. He's running to the end of it. What special skill does Guy have that makes this relevant to his journey? What has he learned? Who is he? Why is running across this platform like the final challenge that he needs to make? It doesn't really click. It's why a lot of the stuff in the real world actually works a lot better in some ways than the stuff happening with Guy, because the people there have character arcs. And I thought that was handled really well, surprisingly well, from indicated in the earlier review. But this part, it's like, what is Guy doing? Who is he? One of the big flaws is, as I see it, you have these two very generic character beats for Guy. First is he finds out he lives in a fantasy world, or in a fake world, and his friend has been lying to him. And the other is Guy loses his memory and has to have it restored, right? You've seen these sorts of plot cycles in tons of films, and the beats are very well worn by now. That doesn't mean you can't do them really well. Some movies do this sort of thing really well. But you'll notice in this film, it's like we hit this, Guy feels like he's betrayed. One scene later, gets over it. Very well foreshadowed, though, and used with his friend, by the way, Buddy, I believe his name is. That conversation between them is great. Wouldn't want that cut, but it's just boom, boom, and then follow it up with Guy loses his memory. One moment later, he gets his memory back. And again, this was well foreshadowed too, right? The whole kiss and everything, I don't know that I would want to cut that. Just the issue is this film is so stuffed with things that they feel like they have to hit these beats, these narrative beats, really fast. And I think the story is a little weaker for it. I feel like this story would be stronger if there were some relevance to Guy's character that both of these beats could be replaced by. Some relevant character arc that really is about him changing or doing something that then ties into the ending, right? Like the ending is just so weak for Guy. He gets what he wants, but how did he change to achieve that? What did he do to achieve that? Buddy comes back. Why? Guy lets go of the love of his life. This is endemic of the problem here, and I'll probably end on this point. Why does he let go? Nothing about his character journey has indicated that he should let go of her. It's just the beat that's supposed to happen here. In fact, it undermines the rest of the film. The whole film is about Guy deciding he's a real person. This is Measure of a Man, the great Star Trek episode from Next Generation, probably the greatest, maybe top 5 at least, great episodes where Data is being proven to be worth being a person. And this movie is doing that same arc, and at the end, he's proven that he's a person, and then he says, by the way, I shouldn't have the love of my life because, well, I guess I'm not real enough for her. It completely undermines the story. So I feel like some sort of arc with Guy learning and feeling and growing that proving he's real, that is relevant to the ending, maybe proving to Taika Waititi's character, no, I'm a real person, you need to take this seriously, would be the arc we need? I don't know. This is just me kind of spitballing, but if, Taika Waititi loaded his avatar in and we're forced to see these people all as people through the actions of Guy, and that defeated the villain, I'm totally on board with that idea a lot more. But anyway, this isn't a script notes. I'm not going to go too much in depth. We are calling this rapid review, and now I've waxed long, but the idea is that we get the rapid part out of the way first, and then I can be an epic fantasy writer and kind of go off in my direction at the end. Let me know if you guys like this format. Thank you very much, and I'll be back with another one of these theoretically in the near future.